Good morning, everyone. Good morning, sir.
So maganda yung quotation of the day nila no, from James Joyce. Totoo yan. So yan. Okay, you may proceed managing communication.
Communication is the manager's job. Manager's job. What is manager's job? Communication managers are in charge of overseeing all internal and external communication for a company, ensuring its message is consistent and engaging, also known as a communication directors. Their main duties include preparing detailed media reports, press releases, and marketing materials. These are the duties of a... Doon pa po, sir. Wala. Di pa po ako tapos. These are the duties of a manager's job way of communication. 1. Collaborate with other teams to identify the public voice of the brand. Example, pakikipag-partner sa ibang company para mas makilala at lumakas, katulad na lang ng Alorica at Teleperformance. Magkaibang BPO sila pero nag-collaborate sila para mas makilala sila. Tapos ngayon isa na silang kilalang sister company. 2. Communicate with media outlets and journalists and create press kits and promoting. Next slide po, sir. The manager as communication champion. There are two components of manager communication champion, and these are the external and internal information. One, external, that originates outside the organization is known as external information. Two, internal. Internal is information and ideas exchanged within the organization itself. Meron tatlong factors ng manager communication champion. Ito ay ang purpose directed. The purpose of directing is to get various activities coordinated for achieving common goals, and it's about direct attention to vision, values, desired outcomes, and influence employee behavior. Example, ang meaning ng purpose directed ay goal directed. Aim toward a goal, toward completion of a task, goal directed behavior. 2. Strategic conversation is defined as a verbal interchange of thoughts that result in a new insights on how to achieve progress toward a common goal, like open communication, asking question, and listening feedback. Example, employees feel free to express opinions, voice complaints, and other offer suggestions. 3. Method can be used to convey an idea, relay information, assemble a procedure, and seal a deal, like rich channels, social media, upward, downward, and horizontal channels, personal networks. Example are more interactive, provide opportunities for two-way communication, and allow both the sender and receiver to read the nonverbal messages. Next slide po, sir. What, what is communication? Communication is the process by which information is exchanged and understood by two or more people, usually with the intent to influence or motivate behavior. Communication is not just for conveying information, but also persuading and influencing people. Although communication skills have always been important to managers, the ability to persuade and influence others is even more critical today. There are 5 examples of communication. One is verbal. Is the use of words to share information with other people. Example, face-to-face conversation. 2. Nonverbal. The ways in which being conveys information about their emotions, needs, intention, attitudes, and thoughts without the use of verbal language. Example, facial expression, gestures, and body language and tone of voice. 3. Written. Is concerned with any type of message which involves written words. Example, reports and emails. 4. Listening. The capability to receive and then interpret the message in the process of communication accurately. Example, deep listening, full listening, critical listening, and therapeutic listening. 5. Visual is the practice of using visual elements to communicate information or ideas. Example, advertising, animation, screenshot, infographics, and pie check. That's all po, sir. The next reporter po, Ate Relisa.
Okay, model of communication. These are the process of communication. The communication process involves understanding, sharing, and meaning, and it consists of 8 essential elements. Those are sender, message, channel, feedback, decoding, and on.
Ang kulit mo, Beng! Ang ganda ka dun. Ako dun. Ako na naman naggugulo.
These elements of communication is essential to understand the process of communicating clearly. For communication to succeed, both parties must be able to exchange information and understand each other. If the flow of information is blocked for some reason, then the parties cannot make themselves understood and communication fails. Okay, the elements of communication are sender, the person who initiate the conversation and create a message. The sender is the communication process na nagsimula kay sender, who is also called the communicator or source. Siya yung may hawak ng information. Then the receiver is the recipient of the information. The person who received the message is directed called the receiver. The receiver must be able to receive the sender's information and decode or interpret. Next is the message. Message is the information created by the source or sender. The message or content is the information that the sender wants to relay the receiver. Additional subtext can be conveyed through body language and tone of voice. Put all the three elements together, sender, receiver, and message, and you have the communication process and its most basic. Next is the channel, also called the medium. The medium is the means by which a message is transmitted. Text messages, for example, are transmitted through the medium of cell phones. Then feedback is the communication process. The receiver responds to the sender's message. This the communication process reaches its final point when the message has been successfully transmitted, received, and understood. The receiver in turn responds to the sender indicating comprehension. Feedback may be direct, such as written or verbal response, or it may take the form of an act or deed in response. Next is decoding and decoding. Communication refers to the process of sending and receiving messages, which can also be referred to as encoding and decoding message. However, communication is effective only when the message is understood and when it stimulates action or encourages the receiver to think in new ways. Indeed, some people, such as those who are highly media literate, for example, may be able to see much more in a given message than others. They are more aware of the levels of meaning. This enhanced understanding. They are more in charge of programming their own mental codes. This enhances control. They are much more ready to get what they want from the message. This enhances appreciation. In essence, some people may be able to gain far more insight as they decode message than others, depending on their level of literacy in the medium in which the message is being encoded. Those people will gain a higher understanding, control, and appreciation of a given message. Um,
Okay?
Yun sir.
Open communication.
And the next healing.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, what is open communication and why is it important? Open communication is when people are able to freely share their opinions and ideals. An organization can implement open communication in a commercial setting by encouraging all employees to voice their feedback and thoughts. This can increase employee loyalty and productivity by making them feel more valuable to the organization. So, let's look at some examples of open communication. Open communication doesn't mean having more meetings or team bonding activities. As we discussed, it's creating a culture where people can state their opinion without any fear. But that doesn't happen naturally. It requires obsessive commitment from the leadership team. Here are some specific examples of open communication. First is open door policies for meetings. Every organization has a leader, and as a leader, you must be able to fulfill your responsibilities to your members, as well as listen to and respect each other's viewpoints so that they are aware that their opinions are valued. For the second is sharing the company's financial information. Sharing financial information is the only way employees can see progress towards their goals. You can also see where there is room for improvement and make changes as needed. It creates strong employee involvement and work satisfaction. When employees feel trusted, valued, and empowered, they will they will feel satisfied with their work. And for the third is real-time and frequent feedback. Real-time feedback is the latest approach to performance management and development, with a focus on continuous development rather than evaluation. Managers capture micro moments of employee behavior and guide them based on observations. For the fourth is raising problems rather than brushing them aside. Teams that value open communication encourage each member to bring up issues rather than burying them. This also aids accountability because people are more inclined to admit their faults if they are not penalized for bringing them up. For the last is discouraging anonymous feedback. Anonymous feedback isn't the best solution for some organization, but it doesn't mean that everything is bad. It just has a negative impact on your business. In some cases, implementing anonymous feedback may be the best option when it comes to internal reviews. One of the biggest debates about the benefits of anonymous feedback is the possibility of eliminating the internal struggles faced by workers and employers when forced to analyze and comment on someone's behavior. So, why is open communication is important? Teams that practice open communication gain the following benefits. Yan. First is increases trust. When people believe that their beliefs will not get them in trouble on their own, they have more trust and camaraderie among their teammates. Open conversation necessitates trust, and trust grows as a result of open communication. It's an interesting cycle, and focusing on one of them reinforces the other. For the second is encourage ownership. Employees have a strong sense of belonging and ownership towards the organization when they feel empowered to express candid feedback with everyone. Sharing critical business insights with the team strengthens their desire to responsibility for their tasks. For the third is reduce stress. Communication difficulties account for a significant portion of workplace stress. Was it appreciated by manager that I spoke up? Did my teammates get I was saying? Is it appropriate for me to share this information with another department? An open communication culture gives the team a sense of security and reduce stress. And for the last is helps bridge cultural differences. Different cultures have their own communication styles. For example, the difference in Western and Asian approaches to collaboration is no secret. The open communication movement has influenced all cultures to strive for a similar environment. It isn't uncommon for traditionally hierarchical for environments like India or Japan to now embrace the ideals of open communication. This makes it easier to address difference in multicultural teams. Next slide po. How do you encourage open communication? Communication can only flourish if the management is obsessed with it. Adopting the following four behaviors will help. First is be observant. Track team attendance at meetings and public forums. Do they question your decisions? Do they talk when they can't be asked? Are they focused on maintaining harmony rather than challenging opinions? You will understand how well your team is open. For the second is ask questions. Ask specific questions to the team during the discussion to encourage participation and normalize disagreements. Despite cultural differences, people are more likely to share their thoughts when specifically asked. Example, are there any weaknesses in this plan from a technical point of view? For the third is use suggestions. Being a careful listener is not enough. They will be discouraged if the team thinks you are listening only to make them feel important. Use their ideas to resonate with you to invigorate them. More importantly, communicate the impact to your team. If you don't use the team's ideas, don't just ignore their suggestions. Just tell them why. And for the last is acknowledge contribution. If you implement that if you implement your team's ideas and see promising results, then acknowledge their contribution. This will motivate them and inspire others to contribute. Teams adopt open communication when they feel that they won't be ridiculed for their bad ideas but praised for the good ones. And how do you maintain open communication? As with all culture, a culture of open communication needs strong strengthening apart from a relentless focus on behavior that promotes open communication. We make this part of the recruitment process. Make sure your new employee is suitable for your team. Join the team in the process. Your team may feel that enjoy open communication, but others may see it differently. As feedback, only half of the work is done until everyone on the team is free to communicate. Next slide po. Communication networks. To achieve the advantages of open communication, managers should use the type of communication network that maximizes employees' performance and job satisfaction. Research into employee communication has focused on two characteristics of effective communication. First is centralized network. So, ang bawat member ng isang company ay dapat na nakikipag-usap sa bawat isa upang malutas sa mga problema at makagawa ng mga desisyon. Ang centralized communication ay maaaring maging effective para sa malalaking company dahil nililimitahan nito ang bawat bilang ng mga taong kasama sa paggawa o pagbuo ng mga desisyon sa isang organization or company. At mas napapabilis ang paggawa ng desisyon dahil mas konti ang mga taong bumubuo nito. Unlike sa decentralized network, dahil ang decentralized network naman ay may malayang makipag-usap sa iba't ibang mga team. For example, sa isang organization ay binubuo ng tatlong team, like Team A, B, and C. So, syempre, kapag ang isang team ay gumawa ng isang desisyon, kailangan ang lahat ng team sa organization ay magkasundo or sumang-ayon muna bago nila gawin yung mga desisyon na yun. Next slide po.
Okay, bago tayo yes, I have a question. No? Yung nung gumagawa kayo nitong PowerPoint, no? Paano yung communication networks ng group niyo? No? Is it centralized or decentralized?
For me po, sir, centralized po.
Okay, so okay ba yung communication ng group niyo, no? Or meron ba siyang hindi nagpaparamdam, sabihin niyo na?
Ngayon po kasi, sir, di ba po, siyempre, sa centralization, kung nakikita niyo po, meron pong namumuno sa kanila. So, siyempre, sa group po namin is merong leader. And yung bawat isa po is nagkakaisa. So, siyempre, mas napapadali po yung presentation dahil lahat po is nakikika-operate po.
Okay. Paano kung halimbawa yung group nyo naman, meron pa rin kayo leader pero decentralized? Hindi ba kayo mahihirapan kung sakali?
For me po siguro, hindi naman po.
Okay, that's good. Actually, no, you can use either. No? Depende sa situation. Kung anong dapat doon sa mga group members mo, yun yung i-implement mo communication networks. No? So siguro, kung medyo magaling ka naman talaga mag-utos, no, or mag-delegate ng trabaho, centralization will work. Pero kung medyo, ano naman kayo, no, kaya nyo naman ng sariling kusa, no, wala nang pilit-pilitan, no, decentralization will also work. So, wala namang bad sa kanilang dalawa. They're both excellent. Okay, next. In a nutshell.
For the last report is communication channel. Communication channel, in short, a communication channel is a medium through which you can send a message to the intended audience. For example, phone calls, text messages, email, video, radio, and social media are all types of communication channels. In enterprises, communication channels ensure an efficient flow of information. Failure on any channel. Broken telephone lines can cause serious misunderstandings and leave them in the dark for employees and customers. Effective communication channels, on the other hand, help you be more productive and make better decisions as a team. Here are a few other ways to use communication channels. First is receive and send important messages. Second, answer your team's questions in real time. Third, prompt discussions that encourage teammates to communicate with each other. And for the last is share materials like presentation files and important documents quickly. Yun lang po, thank you.
Next. Hierarchy of channel richness.
For the next reporter po is Julian.
Okay.
The hierarchy of channel richness. Channel richness is the amount of information that can be transmitted during a communication episode. Number 1, the ability to handle multiple cues simultaneously. Number 2 is ability to facilitate rapid two-way feedback. Number 3 is the ability to establish a personal focus for the communication. Next po.
I-correct ko lang, no? Simultaneously. Tapos, hierarchy. Okay. Important din kasi yun eh. Especially no, if you're marketing students. But if you're not marketing students, okay lang. For marketing, it's important that you say it correctly. Okay, next. Okay, face-to-face.
Face-to-face discussion is the richness medium because it permits direct experience, multiple information cues, immediately feedback, and personal focus. Because it is richness, it is best channel when communicating to people who are exhibiting strong emotions such as anxiety, fear, or defensive. Ang face-to-face daw po ay yung pinaka-epektibo na komunikasyon dahil ito ay direct na nakikita natin yung mga skills or experience ng isang tao. Mas marami ang nakukuhang mga impormasyon at mga agarang feedback at mga personal na mga pagtugon. Dahil dito na kapag nakikipag-usap sa mga tao, nagpapakita ng mga matinding emosyon tulad po ng pagkabalisa, mga takot at pagtatanggol ay mas nakikita. Electronic communication such as email, messaging, and text messaging is increasingly being used by messages that were once handled face-to-face or by telephone. Based on a research by the State University, most of respondents said that they are preferred the telephone or face-to-face conversation for communicating difficult news, giving advices, or expressing affection because email messages lack both visual and verbal cues and don't allow for interaction and feedback. Messages can sometimes be misunderstood. Using email to discuss disputes or, for example, can lead to escalation rather than resolution of conflict. Too often, managers use email or texting messaging to avoid emotion, discon- discomfort of real-time conversation, hiding behind their computer to send reviews, or criticism that they would never deliver in person. Because we can't see their hurt, it doesn't matter as much. And so here are some advices manager to never use email following circumstances. Next po.
Okay, bago ka mag-next. No? I have a question, Miss Y. No?
Yes po.
Dito, no, yung richer mediums, face-to-face sa video conferencing. Right now, we're doing that form of video conferencing.
Yes.
Ano ba yung advantages and disadvantages ng face-to-face sa video conferencing form? Para sa'yo.
Siguro po yung mga advantages po. Pag face-to-face po, mas naiintindihan po natin, mas nakikita po natin yung emosyon ng isang tao, mas naiintindihan po natin sila, or mas napapahiwatig po nila yung gusto nilang sabihin sa atin. And yung mga disadvantages naman po is, mamisinterpret po natin yung isang tao pag hindi po natin alam kung ano po yung nararamdaman po nila.
Okay. Advantage ng face-to-face kasi talagang salo mo kagad lahat ng knowledge. Literal, direkta eh. Direkta sa tenga mo. Unlike here, dadaan pa siya sa medium, which is yung laptop or your cellphone, whatever. No? But, ang disadvantage ng face-to-face, pag hindi mo napakinggan yan, pag absent ka, ano mangyayari? Wala na, di ba? You have to study on your own.
Yes po.
Unlike dito, halimbawa, sir, hindi ako makaka-attend, may sakit ako. No? Nandiyan yung record anytime. Ang tanong lang naman, mga binibini at Ginoo, pinanonood nyo ba yung mga video? Or kung pinanonood nyo man, pinakikinggan nyo. Yun po yung advantage. Recent lang naman kasi itong video conferencing na to. But in the past, ito talaga yung the best. And even now, it's still the best. For some courses sa MBC, I think they're planning to make it face-to-face, especially sa mga tawag dito, hospitality management. But for us, sa mga marketing, sa operations, kaya naman siya ng video conference. Okay? Sa office naman, it's much better na naka-written or address documents. Kasi meron kang receipts. Send to email. Naka-attach to everyone, katulad sa ating GC. Okay?
Yes, mas napapadali po.
Halimbawa, nag-aaway kayo. Miss Y, nasa na yung PowerPoint? Sir, pinadala ko. Screenshot. Ito yan sa code. Ikaw eh.
Yes po. May pruweba po.
Yes, you have proof. Yun yung maganda dyan. Communicating.
Communicating to pursue and influence other. Communication is not just the conveying information but also for pursuing and influencing people. Although communication skills have have always been important to managers. The ability to pursue and influence others is even more critical today. The command and control mindset of managers telling workers what to do and how to do is gone. So here are the key points of practicing art of proceeding includes the following. First is establish establish creativity. Manager's creativity is based on knowledge, experience, and interpersonal skills. Build goals and common ground. To be pursued, managers should describe the benefits that employees will experience by embracing a new policy and fulfilling a request. Connecting emotionally. The most effective pursuers are good listeners who establish an emotion, connection, and others and balance their competence and credibility with warmth and understanding. Use multiple media to send important messages. When a message is highly important, leaders often use red- redundant communication, sending to the same message using different channel. Communication apprehension describes the describe this violence behavior and defense as an individual's level of fear and anxiety associated with either real or anticipating communication. With training and practices, managers can overcome their communication apprehension and become more effective communicators. Next po. Yan. Wait lang po.
Word of the day, candor. No? Ano si candor? Or in American slang, candor. Okay, no? Habang wala pa siya, no? Ano ba sa tingin niyo ibig sabihin ng candor? No? While we're waiting for the reporter. Okay, okay, sasagot na si reporter. Yes, paki-explain ko ano yung candor. Wala. Miss Wahing, are you okay na? Ready na ulit?
Wait lang po. Okay na po. Communicating with candor requires straightforward speaking. Say what you think. Say what you mean. Being polite by sunset show others on your small business team with your value their time and realize that they are professionals who can handle the truth when it's presented properly. Communicating with candor is a confident, positive approach that lets others know exactly where you stand and what you're asking for them. The appropriate use of candid communication knowledge, the other personal perspective and opinion, yet is very specific about the manager's wants, and why. Yun po.
Okay, no? So yung candor, according to Google na lang, or Oxford Languages, is the quality of being open and honest in expression. So ibig sabihin, hindi naman prangka ka, no? Literally. But hindi ka nagsisinungaling as much as possible. So pag nagsabi ako na, ay, ang ganda naman ni Miss Wahing, walang bola yon, no? Walang ano yun, no? walang kalokohan yun. It's being honest. Next. Honesty. Examples of candor.
Example of candor. Honesty. Candor requires saying what you really think and feel without deception of such half truths. Yun po yung pagsasabi po ng totoo, or yun po yung pagpaprangka po sa isang tao na nagsasabi ka po sa kanya ng totoo. Directness. Candor implies that you express things that to be short and understandable without using extra words or fancy vocabulary that is less conductive communication. For example, telling your boss directly what you think their idea will fail.
Okay, no? Dito muna tayo sa honesty. Natin curious ako dito. Question lang, no? Sa tanong ng inosenteng lalaki, no? Bakit ang mga babae daw pag sinasabi natin na ang ganda-ganda mo, be, di ba? Kumari lang. Kahit ilang beses mo sabihin yun, hindi naniniwala. Kahit honest ka. Pero pag sinabi mo, ang pangit mo, no? Kahit joke lang, hindi makalimutan yun. Why? Why do you think? The guy is saying it in candor na, ay, ang ganda mo naman, no? I love you. You're beautiful. Pero pag sinabing kahit joke lang, no? Loves, mukhang bumibigat ka yata. Kahit pabiro lang, hindi niya makalimutan yun. Anong totoo kasi bumibigat. No? Doon
Humble or trust issue, sir?
wala. So, are you saying na hindi siya naniniwala na maganda siya? Or medyo yung...
Sir, baka dahil sa impression na bolero yung mga lalaki.
Asawa mo na kunwari. Okay, Miss Marquez?
For me po sir, kasi di ba po, minsan, kapag sinabi ng lalaki na ang ganda mo, ganyan. Tapos kapag inadapt mo siya or sinabi mo na, oo, maganda ako, ganyan. Sabihin naman ng lalaki, joke lang, niloloko lang kita eh.
Hindi naman lahat siguro. Meron din gano'n lalaki. Meron pa ba? May nag-raise pa ba ng ano? So, jokes are half truth. Medyo totoo rin naman. No? Ako naman kasi, bihira ako magsabi ng, let's say, name of girl, you're so beautiful. Bihirang-bihira. So, pag sinasabi ko, ay, ang ganda mo, no? Totoo ba yan? Sasabihin ng babae. Oo, totoo yun kasi bihira lang ako magsalita. Kulang sa self-confidence. I guess yan. No? Ito, medyo maniniwala ako. Kaya hirap maniwala.
Kulang po sa assurance.
Assurance. Bigyan mo na insurance pag kulang sa assurance, no? Joke lang. No? Importante yun, no? Malalaman naman ng mga babae. Mga babae, mas magaling sa mga lalaki, sabi ko nga. They know when someone is telling some BS. No? Alam mo naman na pag sinabi talaga ng lalaki na mahal kita, dun sa mahal kita. Parang, naku, manluloko lang ako, ilalagay lang ako nito sa listahan ko. Yeah. So that's one. So, without deception. Pero meron kasi mga lalaki na pilyo, no? Hindi mo alam kung talaga ba nagsasabi ng totoo. No? Or kahit ilagay mo sa lie detector test, hindi rin madidetect ng lie detector. But how about directness? Kaya niyo bang sabihin sa boss mo, no? Boss, hindi mangyayari yung sales natin na gusto mo, no? Comics po yan, boss. Can you tell your bosses that? Or even your mom, no? Or your parents. Kulang yung budget mo, no? Hindi tayo mabubuhay dyan sa sweldo mo. Can you? Or nahihiya po tayo magsalita sa mga amo natin, sa mga magulang natin, or even sa sarili natin.
Sir, yung pagdating sa boss, tawag dito, hindi siya pwede ma-direct kasi they are looking for solution lagi. Kunyari, may tina-target na sales. Hindi nila kailangan ng excuses or pagiging prangka na malabo. Ang kailangan po nila steps how to achieve yung nakikita nilang plano or gusto nilang plano or target.
Come on.
Actually, sa mga boss or sa parents or sa ibang tao din, pwede mong sabihin yung negative na nangyayari, yung parang hindi siya masarap pakinggan, pero in a polite way, para mag-isip ka ng paraan, para kung paano mo masasabi yung gusto mong sabihin, kasi makakatulong siya sa lahat eh. Kasi for example, ikaw lang nakakaalam nung hindi magandang nangyayaring yun. Hanggat hindi mo siya sinasabi sa boss directly, in a polite way, or para magandang paraan, hindi nila malalaman yung solusyon. So yun lang.
Okay. Maganda yung mga sinabi yung dalawa.
Actually naman, kasi di ba nag-sales din ako, may point din po na sasabihin mo yung situation na bad things na nangyayari, kaya hirap yung goal, pero kailangan babaka pa mo siya ng idea based on my experience. Kasi ganun eh, i-report mo yung situation ng Ace Hardware branch na yon, bakit nagde-decline yung sales niya, pero at the end of the day, parang ikaw pa rin magsosolusyon.
Yes. Correct, no? Or, sasabihin mo na kagad sa boss mo, pero meron ka ng solution. Much better, di ba? Don't you think? You have to be data-driven. No? So, katulad ko, no? One time, pina-compute sa akin ng boss ko yung sa resort. No? So, sabi, gusto niyang, meron siya pinapagawa. Yan, no? Correct. Propose your recommendation. So, parang case study rin po yan. So, sabi niya, magkano gagastusin natin pag ganito ginamit nating materyales? So meron akong computation, meron akong number crunching. Sabi ko, boss, pag ganyan ang ginawa natin na building construction methodology, tugi tayo ng 5 million. Tapos 5 million short tayo sa budget. So sabi ko, boss, ganito na lang gawin natin. Diba? He's willing to listen. Ganoon naman ng mga boss eh. Para mga ano rin yan, hindi naman ano yung pride nila eh. Kung yung suggestion mo ba okay, why not? No? Of course, pag nag-suggest ka, yun nga lang, nakataya yung leg natin. Yes, hindi natatapos sa pagre-report. Saka bosses are always looking for solution. Correct, no? Kaya nga tayo binabayaran. No? We are troubleshooters, not troublemakers. No? Or ano lang tayo, yung, ang tawag doon? Yung nagbabanggit ng issue, no? Whistleblower. No? Boss, hindi natin magagawa yung sales. Ano solution mo? Wala. Diba? Baka pagkatapos ng araw, no, nandun ka na sa labas, no? Wala na yung opisina mo, tanggal ka na sa cubicle, etc. Yeah, that's good. Honesty and directness.
It is important to manager to understand communication channel has advantage and disadvantage, and that each can be affected means communication in the appropriate circumstances. Here are some advantages: time saver, quick feedback, quick feedback messages, ace preparation, convenient. Disadvantages: number one is distorted meaning, inconvenient for long, unnecessary information, and misunderstanding. Next po.
Asking questions.
Next reporter po is si Lorraine po. Thank you po.
That's why. Okay.
Good morning. Okay na ba, sir?
Si Miss Lorena. Okay.
Hello, sir. Narinig niyo po ako?
Can you hear Miss Lorraine? Medyo mahina ng konti.
Yes po.
Hello, sir. Narinig niyo na po ako?
Yeah, no, much better.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My reports are all about asking questions, listening, and the 10 effective listening. So, asking question builds trust and openness between manager and employees. It means managers who ask questions encourage their employees to share ideas and offer feedback. By engaging employees with person-to-person conversation, it develops trust kasi mas naging open sila sa isa't isa at mas malalaman mo yung belief, views, or at feedback nila. Kasi yung trust na yan, hindi lang natin basta-basta nagigain yan. Number 2, asking question builds critical thinking skills. Asking questions stimulates critical independent thinking and encourage people to use their creativity that leads deeper and more lasting learning. Number 3, stimulates the mind and give people a chance to make a difference. When a manager asks a question to someone, it puts the employee on alert. For example, if a plant foreman says, "We have to increase the production to fill this order," workers can listen to him and try to speed up or continue working as they have been. If instead the foreman will ask the employees, "What can we do to make sure we will fill this order on time?" People can't ignore him. They have to start for looking for a solution, meaning asking question gets people to accept responsibility for solving their own problem. Number 4, important dimension of organizational conversation. Listening to employees or customer feedback is important because their feedback may be a big significant improvement or help in the company success. Tsaka 'di ba pag may meeting yung mga manager, supervisor, CEO at iba pa, nagkakaroon sila ng discussion and report about sa company, competitors, and sa mga employees. And they are asking each other's question and also getting feedback. It only means na kaakibat ng asking question ang listening. At saka, by asking question, it leads you to clarification. Then listening. What does listening mean? So listening is to listen, is to give attention to sound or action. When listening, one is hearing what others are saying and trying to understand what does it mean. Number 1 involves the skill grasping both facts and feelings to interpret a message genuine meaning. So being a good listener requires a great skill kasi hindi ka lang basta makikinig. You also need to analyze and understand what the person is trying to say to avoid misinterpretation. Number 2 requires attention, energy, and skills. When you say listening kasi, may part siya na understanding and comprehension. Kasi kung wala, hearing lang yun. Like, pasok sa isang tenga, labas sa isang tenga. And it's not listening. Kasi magkaiba yung listening sa hearing. So when you say listening, it is a skill that lets the sound you hear go through your brain to process the meaning of it. While when you say hearing, it's an involuntary act where you simply receive vibration through your ears. So bali kapag yung hearing parang nakikinig ka lang, parang hindi mo kailangan intindihin kung ano yung naririnig mo na sound. Pero kapag sinabi mong listening, it requires understanding and analyzing. So bale, katulad dito, reporting. Kailangan kunyari kapag may discussion yung teacher, kailangan gamitin mo yung listening skills mo. Kasi possible na magkaroon ng quiz or di kaya magtanong yung teacher mo tapos if hindi ka nakinig, wala kang masasagot. Then, yung tinutukoy naman dito na energy is yung action or behavior na pinapakita mo. Like kapag may kausap ka, kung humihikab ka ba or di kaya nakasalumbaba ka, it means na hindi ka interested. So, number 3, people do not know how to listen effectively.
when you say listen effectively, ito lang yan eh. First, listen to both sides, meaning listen to your customer as well as your employees because you need to get their feedback to know what change or improvement you need to make. It's also not about persuading others on your point of view, but it's more about respecting and getting the most out of the people, which requires listening to them. Number 4, concentrate on formulating what are going to say next rather than what is being said to them. I think this most likely happened to a BPO or di kaya sa mga employees na matagal na sa company. Pag ganun kasi, syempre, pag feel mo kabisado mo na yung process, nalilesen yung listening skills mo. Kasi akala natin minsan na yun na yung pinupoint out ng customers. Minsan kasi pag alam mo na yung process, minsan nagpo-proceed ka na lang agad without listening to them and it leads to misunderstanding. Next slide po. Okay. So, 10.
Alam na natin yun. So,
Okay, sir. Di lang di-discuss. Okay, sir.
no, alam naman na natin yun, no, yung poor listener at good listener. Kahit hindi natin tignan yan. Ayan, no?
Sir, may tanong pa.
Maganda yung nabanggit kanina, no? Balikan ko lang. Yung concentrate on formulating what they're going to say next. Hindi porket matagal ka na sa trabaho mo, alam mo na lahat. So ako, nakikinig pa rin ako sa mga meeting, no? Kasi minsan, meron dyan magsasalita na kakaibang idea. No? Boss, ba't di na lang ganito gawin natin? So, parang, uy, okay yun bago sa pandinig ko. No? Or kahit matagal na ako sa construction, no, meron pa rin kaming na-encounter na bagong scenario. It's always different. No? Kaya nga po uso sa atin dito sa organization management yung case study. Kasi hindi naman po lahat, no? Let's say pare-pareho tayong office worker, we're not always encountering the same experience. No? So, yun po yung isa sa way to communicate yung mga nangyayari sa araw-araw sa isang business. So, the case study. Okay, check on ito. Ayan, no? So, listen actively, no? Class, no? Magpaparinig ako konti. Listen actively, keep an open mind, no? Bawal po sarado ang isip dito. No? Labanan yung tukso, no? Resist distraction. Capitalize on the fact that thought is faster. Ibig sabihin, mas mabilis ang utak kaysa sa bibig. No? Seek understanding. Unawain. Sabi nga doon sa napanood kong Chinese drama, it's better to understand than to love. Mahal mo nga yung tao, di mo naman naintindihan. Nagko-communicate siya, I love you, pero iniisip mo hindi ka niya mahal. Para si Moira lang. Judge content, not delivery. No? So, okay, nandun pa rin yung factor na palpak yung delivery niya, but pakinggan mo yung sinasabi niya, baka merong laman. No? Hindi mo ninanamnam kasi pangit yung pagkakabanggit niya. Hold one's fire. Ito, no, importante to. Always listen for ideas. Work at listening, no? Makinig lagi. And show respect. Kayo na bahala kung good listener or poor listener kayo. There you go. Number 1.
Classmate. Bago po ako magsimula, may tanong lang po. Kumbaga, meron bang natutunan o meron bang aral na nakukuha yung classmate ko sa report ng group 5? Or wala?
Yung mga hindi group 5, ano masasagot nyo? Did you learn from group 5? Ako marami ako natutunan.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Parang mali yata yung tanong mo. Nakikinig ba kayo? Joke. Sige lang. Take your time.
Kasi parang gusto kong sabihin, sir, kung meron silang ano sa amin, parang i-improve namin yung sarili namin kung meron kaming kulang o meron kaming idadagdag para sa next reporter, ma-improve namin yung pagre-report namin, kumbaga.
Dito wala na kayong reporting. Pero malay nyo, no? Baka sa finals may reporting. Malay natin. Okay. Paki-ready na yung mga questions nyo for group 5. Okay.
Non-verbal communication is powerful. It's aspect of the body language. We know there's a lot of non-verbal communications, meaning there are some of my example. Eye contact is an especially important types of non-verbal communication. The way you look at someone can communicate many things like interest, affections, hostility, or attraction. Kumbaga, di ba kasi yung parang eye contact, parang kumbaga paragi nating sinasabi na mata sa mata, kumbaga Kumbaga, nagkakaroon ka ng, sa mata mo palang nakikita, nagkakaroon ka ng interest sa mga sa ganitong bagay, kumbaga, or may kausap ka. Kumbaga, nakikita mo na kung may interest ba talaga tong tao sa'yo, or wala. Gestures. How you use your body part. Example, pag nag-thumbs up ka, ibig sabihin, well done or best of luck. Or handshake means friendship. Halimbawa, makikipag-meeting ka sa president. Ano yung unang gagawin mo? Siyempre, makikipagkamay ka sa president bilang pagrespeto sa president. Parang, kumbaga, formal communication. Facial expressions is very important to face communication. They can convey the emotions like what? Anger. Halimbawa ng anger expression, kapag yung customers mo, nagagalit na siya kasi ang tagal ng order mo. Sabi 20 minutes lang, pero bakit umabot na ng 1 oras? Di ba kasi parang magagalit ka na agad? Ang dami-daming mga customers na ganyan, na ang bilis-bilis natin magalit. Pero hindi natin alam yung totoo na halos nagmamadali na talaga yung chef para ma-deliver lang yung pagkain mo. Pero ikaw, inaano mo kagad yung emotion mo, magagalit ka agad-agad. Saan ba? Postures. Parang, kumbaga, palagi natin naririnig to na tumayo ka ng maayos. Kumbaga, parang, di ba kung makipag-usap ka sa manager mo, di ba, dapat nakatayo ka ng maayos. Hindi pwedeng nakayuko ka or nakapamewang or kumbaga. Kasi parang nakakabastos yun sa manager kung hindi mo inaayos yung postura mo. Kumbaga. Personal space, kumbaga parang, halimbawa, emotion ka ngayon or broken hearted ka ngayon, tapos kumbaga ayaw mo munang makipag-usap, kumbaga lalayo ka muna, gusto mo munang makapag-isa. Kumbaga, parang ganyan. Ito yung physical contact, kumbaga tatapikin ka lang ng, alam mo, kaibigan mo, parang nadi-deliver mo na yung yung gusto mong sabihin kahit sa pamamagitan lang ng tapik mo. Kumbaga. Next po, sir.
Okay. So, may babanggitin lang ako dito sa anim na examples. Itong eye contact, no, na nakakatawa tong picture nyo. No? Kasi, pag ang dalawang lalaki nagkatinginan, ano kaya sa tingin nyo yung nangyayari?
Natatawa po agad.
Okay, di ba? Or, madalas mangyari yan, pag may dumaan na maganda,
Nahamunan.
pang Miss Universe. Lalo na pag magkaibigan, no? Kahit hindi nga magkakilala, pag nagkatinginan, parang nagkakaintindihan sila. Nagkakaroon ng message yung dalawa. Magbabaw, no? Okay? Gestures, no? You can see the thumbs up. We have a topic sa graduate school about yung culture. No? So, for us, no? Pag ganyan, okay, di ba? But some, this is the okay. But sa atin, di ba? Pag ganyan, pera. Sa iba, gangster. Sa iba yung ganito, ito daw, it indicates the size of your penis, no? So, iba-iba po. No? Hindi po universal pa rin yung ating non-verbal communication. No? Tayo lang ang naglalagay ng meaning na ito daw ay okay. Personal space, of course, gusto na po ngayon yan, no? Pag hindi mo naman kilala, huwag kang dikit ng dikit, no? Para kang, para linta tuloy. Posture, no? There was someone, no? Meron ako dating office mate. Maganda siya, no? Maganda siya. Maganda katawan niya, no? Sabihin na natin, maganda yung vital stats niya. Pero, I'm not sure, no? Baka nahihiya siya sa size ng kanyang bust. No? Lagi siyang parang, lagi nakagano, no? Nagtatago siya, lagi siya nakayuko, no? So sabi ni Madam, no, ganda-ganda mo naman, no? Kasi Chinese yung boss namin, babae. Ikaw maganda naman, bakit ikaw nahihiya sa iyo, dede? No? Ganun siya magsalita. So, tinuruan siya, no? Tapos, from office worker, na-promote siya, napunta siya sa front desk. And that front desk experience opened the opportunities for her. So ngayon, from front desk, nandun na siya sa management. So be confident, no? Kung anong meron ka or kung anong wala ka. Nandiyan na yun, ibigay yun ng nasa taas. Facial expressions, no? You have to control your temper. Minsan, kahit kontrolado mo yung temper, hindi makapagsinungaling yung mukha natin. But we must train ourselves to be as neutral as possible. And physical contact, nothing wrong with physical contact. But there are cultures na like to have, you know, mga touchy-feely or skinship na tinatawag. For example, Malaysians do not want to be touched, no? Kahit na mga relatives sila. Because they consider the body as sacred. No? Baka nakangiti ka, no? Pero, I agree. Pero yung mukha mo, kung gusto mo na sakalin yung kausap mo, di ba? May mga ganun. Pag overconfident naman po kasi sa posture, nag-iiba impression. Sakto lang, no? Huwag mo masyadong overconfident. Huwag naman po tayo masyadong. That's it. Workplace communication.
Workplace communication is the process of exchanging informations and idea, both verbally and non-verbally, between one person or group in another person or group within an organization. It includes emails, video conference, text, message, notes, calls, and etc. Four elements of
Etc.
etc. Four elements of workplace communications of managers. First bullet, using social media to improve internal and external communication. By using emails, online or Zoom meeting, chat, video chat, phone calls are some of example of social media. Use external and externally. Halimbawa, through emails, kumbaga mag-i-email ka sa managers mo or may isisend kang memos para mga ganyan, magre-report or transactions to other company. Kumbaga, mas mapadali, mas okay ngayon kasi through email lang kaysa dati. Kumbaga, need mo pang isulat, kumbaga, kung meron kang gustong anong tawag? Kung gusto kang iparating, kumbaga. Second bullet, using informal communication channel. Are texting, call, chat, video chat, or communicating verbally. Halimbawa, ito yung makikipag-communicate tayo sa pamamagitan lang ng text, chat, or tawag halimbawa, sa pamilya natin, sa trabaho natin. Kumbaga, yan yung way na makipag-communicate tayo sa text at saka chat. Third bullet, establishing formal communication channels and our emails, online meeting, or face-to-face meeting. Halimbawa, mag-email ka sa school or makipag-meeting ka sa online yung kumbaga, magiging face-to-face na yung class mo. Kumbaga, mas okay kasi kumbaga para sa akin, mas okay yung face-to-face na klase kasi mas mabilis ako maka-catch up kaysa online class. Kasi minsan nagkaka-technical error tayo, minsan naglalag ka. Yan po yung mga formal communication.
Okay, mag-alala, no? Malapit yung wish mo.
Last bullet is developing a strategy for crisis communications. If there is crisis communication, you have to highlight the issue at calls for a meeting to address it properly. Get deeply the issue so that everyone will understand. Use visual or possibles communicate to them to feel that they are cared, then keep them update about new information, rules, and regulations if there's is any. Kumbaga, halimbawa yung company mo nagka-crisis na. Anong dapat mong gawin para kumbaga hindi malugi yung company mo. 'Di ba sa pamamagitan ngayon ng makipag-meeting ka, kumbaga makipag-usap ka kung anong plano nyo kung para hindi po tuluyang malugi yung company nyo.
Okay.
Next mo, sir. Social media. Social media is a collective terms of website and application that focus on communications, community based on input, interaction, content sharing, and collaborations. Social media, ibig sabihin ang social media ay terms na ginagamit in general sa mga website and applications like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, email, Instagram, at iba pa. Ito yung mga website and apps na ginagamit upang mabahagi at makakuha ng information, hindi lamang sa pansariling kaalaman, kundi para sa lahat. At hindi ito limitado, kumbaga. Kumbaga, meron kang gustong matutunan or panoorin, pumunta ka lang sa YouTube, hanapin mo yung channel ni Sir. Kumbaga, mag-subscribe ka, parang ganun.
Walang forever.
Sa Twitter, ganun. parang mga, ganun po yung social media. Sa Instagram, kumbaga magpo-post ka lang ng mga, halimbawa, yung mga product mo, mga ganyan. Facebook, magpo-post ka lang doon ng, magbayad ka na ng utang mo or sama ng loob mo, kumbaga. Ganyan, parang masasabi ko parang powerful na ngayon ang technology kaysa noon. Kasi noon naka-keypad lang tayo eh. 3315 lang, hindi naka touchscreen kumbaga. Mas hirap yung tao noon kaysa ngayon. Listening to customers. Managers is company from small entrepreneurs, firms, and non-profit agency to huge corporations are using social media to listen to customers. Halimbawa, ang mga managers na maliliit hanggang sa malalaking businesses ay gumagamit ng social media para pakinggan ang mga customers sa pamamagitan ng nare-receive na feedback at comments mula sa mga customers. Sa pamamagitan nito, nabibuild up ang futures ng customers. Halimbawa, pag maganda ang feedback ng isang produkto, marami ang makakabasa nito. Kahit tayo, pag nag-order tayo like sa Lazada, sa Shopee, tinitingnan muna natin yung mga comments about sa product na bibili natin. Kasi inaalam muna natin kung makakabuti ba sa atin to or nakakasama kumbaga. Communicating customers refers to the process through which a business shares variables informations with its customers. Such interactions take place over popular communication channel, such as email, phone, live, chat, social media, online forums, customers portals, and many others. Sa panahon ngayon, madalas nakikipag-communicate tayo sa mga customers natin. Mapa-online, live chat, at iba pa. Halimbawa na lamang nito ay ang online selling. Nauuso to lalo nung nagkaroon ng pandemic. Habang nag-present ka ng product mo, nag-aantay ka ng merong mag-mine. May nagtatanong at may nagsasuggest at after niya, babalikan pa yung mga comments para mas mapa-improve pa ang product and service na ino-offer natin sa mga customers natin. Wag lang natin ipamain wag mo nyo lang ipamain yung mga partner nyong nangapit bahay na. Product lang po. Last, engaging employees. Social media can enable people to connect with one another easily across organizational and geographical boundaries based on professional relationship, shares, interests, problems of other criteria. Example, ibig sabihin ang social media ay nagbibigay daan para sa mga tao, empleyado nakipag-communicate sa kanilang mga empleyado o sa concerned person mo. Nakakapagtanong ka, nakakabahagi ka ng information na mabilis sa pamamagitan ng social media. Example na lamang nito, kahit nga wala kang load, may free data naman sa Messenger. Diba? Kumbaga, mabilis ka lang makipag-communicate kaysa noon. Kumbaga, i-share ko lang to parang noon kung naniniwala ba kayo sa ganitong aspeto. Kumbaga yung sa noon. Kasi parang yung tita ko, parang, kasi mahirap yung signal, mahirap magpa-load noon. Kumbaga, yung tita ko parang, kailangan pa niyang, yung totoo ba ito? So, kailangan pa niyang sumigaw yung sa probinsya na yung, parang palayok siya, na pero malaki, yung nilalagyan ng tubig pero malamig. Kailangan niyang sumigaw na 3 beses doon para tumawag lang yung jowa niya sa kanya. Kumbaga, ganun kahirap mag-communicate noon. Mahirap makontak yung person mo. Ngayon, free data lang. 1 minute, okay na agad. Tapos noon, isusulat mo pa. Kumbaga, parang ganyan. Yun lang po yung turn. Doon po natatapos yung report ko. Marami pong salamat sa pakikinig.
Nice. Itong engaging employee, talagang mahirap to. Na-experience ko na magtrabaho sa job site na walang signal talaga. No? So, Paano pag halimbawa walang signal dyan sa area mo? Talagang tipong malayong-malayo na sa tralala kayo. Paano ang trabaho niyo? What do you think? Mali ako ng pinto. May lata pa. No? Kami dati, no, ginagawa namin para lahat ng mga kailangan padala sa opisina, pinapadala ko na ng umaga. Tapos babalik sa akin yung tao ko ng mga tanghali, mapapadala ulit ako sa tanghali ng mga kailangan. Pag hindi naman kailangan magpadala sa opisina, hindi ko na paalisin yung tao. Ganun yun. That's one. No? Pero sa office ngayon, I think all of us are using cell phones. Next. Personal communication channels.
Po. No po. Personal communication channels coexist with channels within an organization but may skip hierarchical level, cutting across vertical chains of command to connect virtually anyone in organization. Three important types of personal communication channel. Personal network, the grapevine writing communication. Next slide po. Organization and communication network. Marketing, manufacturing, engineering. Next slide po, sir. Formal communication channel. A formal communication channel transmit information such as the goals, policies, and procedures of an organization. Yung example po ng formal communication channel, other words are design channels for exchange of message, including personal instruction, interviews, training programs, letters, memoranda, and annual reports among the various positions in the organization. Then, sir, pwede pa, pabalik po sa unang slide. Una pa po.
Yan.
Opo. Yan yung example sa personal communication channel is include conversation, email, text, message, online chat, or direct message, personal interviews, leaves, speeches, unrecorded course, lectures, memos, letters, message from non-archived discussion, groups, or online bulletin boards. May question po ba?
Questions po ba kayo? I think wala naman. Sige lang. Continue. Wala raw questions.
None so far dahil hindi pa namin na
Continue po, sir.
laman kung ano yung i-question, hindi pa na-discuss yung topic.
Oh, okay. Continue lang.
No po.
Yes, tuloy mo lang.
Yan sa formal po, sir. Yung formal communication, principle siya sa sa mga interviews or meeting gathering. Ayun lang po.
Next slide.
Upward communication, problems and expectation, suggestion for improvement, performance report, financial and accounting information. Downward communication, implementation of goal strategies, job instruction, and rotational.
Okay. Anything else? May dadagdag pa po ba?
Good morning, sir. So,
May
ito
next
na
report po.
Okay. So, next slide na tayo.
Apo, sir.
Wait lang. So, ako muna, no? Nakalimutan lang idagdag ng reporter. No? Yung upward kasi, alam naman na natin to based on the examples.
Actually, nasa next slide po, sir.
Sige. Okay. nabawasan ako na sasabihin.
Sorry po, sir.
Okay lang. Upward.
Upward communication employees communicate with upper management to provide feedback, share ideas, and raise concerns regarding their day-to-day work. Yung upward communication, for example, yung mga employees or staff na nagkaroon ng mga gandang ideas para mas mapaganda yung takbo ng isang kumpanya. Agad niya itong sasabihin kay supervisor. Si supervisor Si supervisor naman sasabihin kay manager at si manager hanggang sa makarating ito sa mas mataas pa na position. Kaya nga from lower level to higher level. In short, upward communication is the participative because it encourages lower level employees to voice their opinion. Ang purpose ng upward communication is to allow employees to give feedback or suggestions to authoritative company figures. Downward communication is the act of relaying important information in a company or organization from higher levels to lower levels. Example ng isang downward communication is yung pagbabahagi ng mga patakaran at pamamaraan sa loob ng kumpanya na dapat alam ng lahat ang mga guidelines na dapat nilang sundin and to make sure na pareho or iisa lang ang mga pinagkuhanan na impormasyon. No matter what position you are, kailangan sundin ang mga protocol ng isang kumpanya. Businesses and organizations can use other form of downward communication to discuss company changes or directives, including sending emails, writing newsletter and memos, highlighting information in manuals or handbook, staff meeting, and creating policy changes. In short, communication is directives in nature as it allows upper management to instruct employees or on particular company matter. Ang purpose ng isang downward communication is to give orders to lower-level employees about their job, responsibilities, or company policies. The desired goals for each type of communication can differ and change from company to company. The goal for downward communication are to transmit important information from higher level to lower level of employees without feedback or comment. Sa upward communication naman, it comes as questions or concerns about company policies, projects, or expectations. And other times, it might be requested feedback from company, executives, and official about business practices or recent changes.
Okay.
Horizontal communication. Horizontal communication sometimes referred to as lateral communication. Encompasses workplace communications among places, departments, or teams at the same level in an organization. Horizontal communication naman, for example, sa isang coffee shop, may nire-reach silang quota. Magtutulungan sila or yung mga barista para mas mapabilis at main nila yung kanilang target quota at para magawa nila ng maayos ang trabaho nila. On the other hand, if di sila magko-communicate at may kanya-kanya silang mundo, mas matagal ang kanilang trabaho at may possibility na di nila ma-reach yung target quota nila. In short, communication happens between employee and other employee, or head of the department and other head of the department, or building a relationship between at the same level.
Okay.
Next poster.
So, it's also known as coordination. So, ikaw yung makikipag-usap sa lahat ng department. So, meron ba dito mga naging coordinator na, no? So, ako, yan yung dati kong trabaho, is the project coordinator, no? Hindi po office coordinator. Lahat ng may kinalaman sa project, I have to assist, no? I have to coordinate. For example, accounting, purchasing, legal departments, contracts, bids, yun. HR. And crisis communication.
In crisis, as a manager, your ability to communicate effectively during a crisis will determine how effectively the organization survives the upheaval. Crisis communication can be defined broadly as the collection, processing, and dissemination of information required to address a crisis situation. In crisis, there are two main words that we have to remember: the communicate and the containment. Communication, well, obvious naman na we have to communicate in case of crisis. Hindi tayo pwede magtago kasi hahanap-hanapin tayo. Para maiwasan ang pagtago, we need to provide the information. We need to feed them the information. Hindi naman required to answer the question, basta mabigay natin yung mga information. Yan ang importante in case of crisis. So don't hide, communicate. Containment means na kailangan ma-stay ang small crisis. Make sure na di na lumaki ang crisis. Because if you don't communicate, it might be possible that the press will start speculate. They will write anyway. But how do you communicate? First, make sure that you have the information. First, make sure that you have the information. Mas madali pag nasa crisis ka. We have to start gathering the information and feed them with the right information. Second, make sure that we show the sympathy. Ipakita natin yung care sa company and organization and about the people who got hurt, not physically but emotionally. If there are human victims, number 2 will become the information. So we have the information and the sympathy. The third one is that what are we going to do? How to solve this crisis? Well, we have to take our responsibilities. And if we show these three elements in crisis, communicate. And if we show these three elements in crisis communication, and we are doing a good job. Next poster.
So pag may crisis, no, gawin po lahat na makakaya nyo, huwag lang po crisis.
There are four primary skills for managers to follow when communicating in crisis. Number 1, stay calm, listen hard. Stay calm para makapag-isip ka ng mga dapat gawin and para maging kalmado din yung mga tao mo. Be visible. Pwedeng example dito is yung earthquake drill sa school. Yung mga teacher or yung mga classroom officers, sila yung nag-guide or sila yung tumutulong sa atin para makalabas ng safe zone or open space. Get the awful truth out. Ito naman, be alert and gather news sa internet, TV, or radio. Communicate a vision for the future. To vision the future crisis leadership, internal communication, and public relations teams use employee communication tools to share updates and important company information during the crisis. And with the use of technology, we can monitor all channels of communication in the workplace, which is one of the first steps in preventing crisis and catastrophe.
And last. Wala na. Last. Diba?
In a point, sir, communicate a vision for the future.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so one of the example. Ilan pa kayo dito? 2 or 6. Meron, syempre, nag-picture, so 7. Okay.
So one of the example of communication is us. Nag-communicate kami through messenger kung ano ang plan for the presentation. And we have a target date or deadline para matapos yung presentation namin. And we decided na lang din magkita-kita. To be honest, mahirap maggawa ng ganitong activities kung sa social media lang kami nagko-communicate. But thankful ako sa group team ko na andun yung communication and cooperation ng bawat isa. And that's how we finish our presentation po.
Bravo. Kudos to Group 5. No? Meron ba tayong may tatanong kay Group 5 before we take our break? Field sales coordinator. Yes, Mr. Bustamante. Ito, maraming tanong pa siya.
Ay, hindi naman, sir. Questions for Miss Margillian po. Curious lang ako dun sa open communications na discuss niya kanina. So, na-discuss kasi dito yung sa open communications about the culture and the differences. So, ang tanong ko sa kanya, can culture or sabihin natin gender, nationality, or social class have an effect on communication?
Miss Marjeline? Nandiyan pa po ba? Or anyone from Group 5, can you answer the question?
Anyone na lang.
Sorry, ano po ulit? Pwede pong paulit.
Okay. Dun sa open communications na discuss po, ma'am, yung sa differences and culture. Can culture and differences or social class have an effect on communication? May effect differences sa communication for you.
Kasi like, 'di ba kasi nag-i-import tayo sa iba't ibang bansa. So nagkakaroon siya ng effect na nagkakaroon siya ng tawag dito ng effect sa ibang culture kasi 'di ba meron tayong iba't ibang language na ginagamit.
Okay, that's a good answer. Yes, Miss Benjamin Asuncion.
Yes po, may effect din po yung cultural communication. For example na lang is yung sa atin, meron tayong iba't di sa Pilipinas, meron tayong iba't ibang ano, lengguwahe. Meron ding Tagalog, Ilocano, and
Dialect, no? Other dialect.
dialect po. So parang hindi natin naiintindihan yung dialect nila, pero naiintindihan naman natin by using their naiintindihan naman natin sila kumbaga kasi
Sige lang, kaya mo yan.
'di ba pag ano, pag nagsasalita sila ng Visayas hindi natin maintindihan, pero nage-gets natin yung sinasabi nila kumbaga.
Yung summary. Okay. Correct, no? Correct yung sinabi ni Asuncion.
Yes, tama po.
Meron ba? Miss Emery? Emery?
Yes, question lang, 'di ba kasi may binanggit kayo tungkol sa non-verbal communication, yung mga gesture, 'di ba? Yung mga samples nyo is for face-to-face communication. How about, kunyari, through phone? How do you express or paano mo paparamdam doon sa kausap mo na nakikinig ka at nauunawaan mo siya?
Okay, group 5. Medyo mahirap yung tanong, pero actually, madali lang yung sagot. Group 5.
O kasi ako, konti lang yung alam ko eh.
Kunti lang din alam ko ito. Kumbaga, yung parang sa opinion ko naman, parang paano mo mapapakita yung expression mo sa kausap mo kung naka-video call kayo sa pamamagitan ng
Hindi video call.
through,
Hindi kayo
okay.
nakikita. Paano mo paparamdam?
Kumbaga, parang sa pamamagitan ng sa boses mo, halimbawa, kumbaga, mararamdaman mo kung iba na yung boses mo kung pagalit ka na or masaya ka, doon mo mapipili yung doon mo mapipili yung kausap mo kumbaga sa pamamagitan kasi doon wala namang video call, wala namang ganyan-ganyan doon, pero mararamdaman mo na yung jowa mo galit na pala sa iyo, kumbaga sa pamamagitan ng ganun, doon mo ramdam yung kumbaga malakas yung pakiramdam natin, kumbaga kahit di natin nakikita yung tao.
Bukod sa tone of voice, kasi tama ay sabi ni Sir Paano Matasing.
Ano na?
May nag-comment kasi tone of voice. Ang tanong, no?
Okay.
Ibabalik ko yung tone of voice. Paano kung ilongga yung kausap mo?
Tama po, sir. Kasi kami, kapag through phone, para lang mapakita mo na sincere ka, yung parang may verbal nudge din through phone etiquette na, yung parang ganon, na sige, go on. Tapos pwede rin yung paraphrasing. Kasi yun lang yung alam ko. Baka meron pa kayo masabi. Alam ko lang, parang pinaparaphrase mo yung sinabi niya para lang maintindihan mo. Ino-confirm mo yung sinabi mo. Baka may maidagdag kayo kasi yun lang yung
So yun nga, paano natin malalaman sa true phone? By diretsyohan na po into a question na if galit ka ba, sabihin mo lang. Kung masaya ka ba, kung naintindihan mo ba. Kumbaga diretsyohan na po, sir.
Parang
na nakikinig ka.
Huwag na magpaligoy-ligoy.
For me po siguro like kung paano mo na-express yung feelings mo through message. Like yung mga tawag dito kunwari, yung may mga question mark or tandang padamdam ganun.
Ito ewan ko kung akin ito technique ko. Pag nakikinig ka ba, ibabalik ko sa kanya yung question, ikaw nakikinig ka ba? No? Or, lahat ng sinabi niya for the past 5 minutes, ibabalik ko sa kanya. Ito yung mga sinabi mo, pumunta kayo sa ganito.
Yan lang din yung alam ko rin, sir, na way.
Kaso, yun nga, halimbawa, galit, diba? Sabi mo galit ka, paano malalaman na galit? No? So, let's say sa mga Ilongga, no? Parang, hindi natin ma-sense kung galit na sila or what. No? Hindi tayo nag-racial discrimination dito or bias. No? Pero madalas, no? Di ba? Katulad ng niligawan ko nung nasa trabaho pa ako. Papatayin kita, no? Gusto na talaga akong patayin. No? Kala ko, nilalambing lang ako. Pag caps lock, minsan napipindot mo lang yung caps lock No? Ayan, then, para malaman na nakikinig, no? I think sa akin, no, ito yung pinaka-the best. Ikwento mo talaga yung mga, yung recap. Parang magre-recap ka. Ito yung mga kunento mo para sure ka, no? Mawala yung yung agam-agam mo na natutulog na ako or nagmo-Mobile Legends lang ako. Ito yung mga sinabi mo. Kasi ganito, ganyan. Pumunta ako sa McDo, kumain ako ng ganito, uwi ako, sumakay ako ng ganito, blah, blah, blah. Parang nag-exam ka rin, in a way. Straight to the point, yes. Maraming ways. No? We all have our own personal communication. My style may not be the same as yours. Yours may be better than mine, pero case-to-case basis nga po eh. Kanya-kanya pong sitwasyon. No? Baka naman yung kausap mo stoic, no? Yung tipong medyo manhid yung dating niya, no? Tahimik lang siya, hindi mo alam kung galit na pala sa'yo or masaya siya or may gusto pala siya sa'yo. Tapos tahimik lang siya. Paramdam mo na may kausap siya, yes. No? Minsan yung simpleng, oh, nice. Ano na yan eh, that's already a good sign. Na, hindi, paano ka mag-emoji sa sa telephone, no? No? Hindi naman siguro. Okay. Question po sa nag-report about workplace. I think natanong na. Has the development of the internet and social media caused a change in the way we communicate by quality, quantity, style, etc.? Natanong na ba ito kanina, Mr. Bustamante?
Not yet po, sir.
Oh. Pang Miss Universe na question. Using of social media and internet or even reporting, has the development of internet and social media cause a change in the way we communicate? Can someone from Group 5 answer that question? I think we all know the answer. Pero paano? Paano sa perception ng Group 5? Okay. Yes, may nag-raise ng hand. No? Ayan. No? Sir, ask ko po about sa asking and listening. Sabi po kasi nung bata pa tayo, ang batang wala tanong matalino. No? Applicable po ba yun pag matanda? Well, depende kasi sa tanong. No? If your question makes sense, wala naman pong masamang magtanong. Libre po ang magtanong. No? Sir, paano po ba yung communication? Okay lang yung magtanong ng gano'n. No? Pero yung simpleng tanong naman na, Sir, ano yung 1 plus 1? No? You're already, yeah. Parang nangaasar ka na nun eh. Parang nangiinsulto ka na. So it depends on the question. No? Unless talagang, let's say, bata ng tanong, Sir, ano yung 1 plus 1? Maintindihan natin. Marami po kasing factors po. Pag about sa work, no? Depende naman no sa work experience. So let's say, sir, paano yung mga SKU, no? Hindi ako marunong sa SKU. No? What do you think are the major barriers to upward communication? No? Ano kaya, no? Alam naman natin sagot, Miss Pelayo. Ano kaya yung major barriers? Sa tingin nyo? Di ba, yung mga kausap nyo? Kung ayaw nila iangat yung queries nyo or concern, di ba? Pag may grievance kayo, ayaw iangat ng HR sa amo nyo, sila mismo yung humaharap. Okay, ano to? Clarification, i-paraphrase sa mga listeners po namin kanina. Okay, so sila nagtatanong, no? Okay. How will you describe good, effective communication? Ano ba to? Meron ba tong, may libre bang Gcash, no? Asuncion? Okay. I think Group 5 did their job, no? Sa report, mahirap mag-grades, no? Magbigay ng grades, but let's see, no? I might give 1 or 2 groups the grade of perfect, no? 1, and 3 to 4 groups naman ay makakatikim ng 125. Okay? So, no? Isipin niyo muna yung question ni Mr. Asuncion, no? While we take a break. Balik tayo ng 11. Dumating na si Pansit, no? Si Palabok. No? Let's have brunch. Okay? Yung mga mods, kung meron pang idadagdag, you can just put it in the in-call messages.